So, I kind of want to talk about this notion that psychics are starting to implement intuition in their marketing decisions. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense. At its core, sales has always been tied to understanding human nature, knowing how to read the room, and sensing the invisible cues that data can't capture. Behavioral psychology has given marketeers frameworks for decades, but intuition brings in that raw, unfiltered layer that most businesses tend to ignore. New creative projects, like the Nude Project, for example, are hiring kids as creative directors as a part of their new campaign. And I think it's pure genius because kids represent that primitive, untamed self that we have buried under all that logic and all the spreadsheets. Kids are much closer to their senses. They notice the smallest details, they react without overthinking, and the more in tune we are with ourselves, the more that translates into our professional work, especially in brand and marketing. That's why experimentation always feels so powerful, because it's primal and it's raw and it takes us back to a place we've never seen before. So I say intuition is the new strategy. And this is why psychics and kids might be the future of marketing. Hear me out. So businesses have always been about people, not just numbers. You can track KPIs, analyze funnels endlessly. And sales, however, is very much tied into human nature. The ability to read the room, whether that's a literal audience or a digital community or a cultural mood, is what separates campaign that resonates from the one that falls flat. This is where intuition, once dismissed as a woo, is returning. And the conversation is around psychics, intuitives, and even founders with a sharpened gut instinct. And they are showing us how sensing and human behavior can become a part of a business advantage. So, behavioral psychology gave us insights into persuasion, biases, and decision making. But intuition goes deeper than that. And it's not about statistic, it's about sensing what data hasn't revealed yet. Psychics can call it energy, marketing people may call it instinct. Whatever it's labeled, it doesn't matter. But it's about tapping into the undercurrents that most people desire before they're even able to sort of articulate it. If you ask your friend, if you ask your, partner, what do they really love about you? What do they like about you? Chances are they don't even know it. But it all stems from a certain familiarity and a touch point. And that's why this is a really great exercise to do, is kind of dive in through the layers and start extracting it, building from the bottom up. So really understanding why you like something, right? What is it that draws you to it? Breaking those things down. I love this person because they make me feel safe. They make me feel like home. Maybe they remind me of a particular person that I'm very close to, maybe my grandmother. And I know that might be weird, but you attach certain emotions and feelings to certain events and people that kind of bring back those kind of neurological senses in your brain that create familiarity, right? And when you miss out on those links between humanity, what are those touch points and the brand, that's when the problem is so clear. It's because you've missed the human touch. The human touch is not just about creating community. It's not just about building something that feels intimate and close, but it's rather really tapping into the minds of people, the different touch points that kind of bring them closer to home and familiarity and the people that they love. And that is what creates community. Behavioral psychology is something that is deep and should be practiced within the advertising world. Or if you're an individual brand person or a marketeer, really, really learn about what kind of psychological tactics and thought processes go into the kind of strategy that you are building. And apart from that, I would also say practice intangible forms of understanding and feeling, and really getting into spaces where you can understand people by just, meeting them one time. And a lot of people will say that psychic abilities are born. You can't really build them. And I would actually disagree with that, because I think we are all psychic. We are all in tune with our sixth sense. We just don't know how to channel it properly. So hiring kids as creative directors, let's get back to that. Sounds pretty outrageous, but you know what? Not really. Because kids are raw, they're unfiltered, and deeply in tune with their senses, and they don't overthink. And by bringing children or childlike thinking into any kind of process, Gen Z founders are making a statement. Pure sensory creativity that has a place in professional branding. Experimentation is inherently primitive, and it's messy and it's raw, and we want the things that are primitive. We are naturally attracted to things that feel raw and real. We like polished things on the surface. We like aesthetic things on the surface. But if you always notice, we move on from one aesthetic to the other. Aesthetics change over the course of decades and time. One time I like grunge, rock, punk aesthetics. Then as I grow a little bit older, I tend to like more sophisticated, classy styles, right? It changes with my mood, with my growth, with my learning, with my age, and it never really stays the same throughout, right? But what will not change is your primitive nature. So what is your primitive nature? Food, sex, water, bond, community. And where do these things stem from? That's the real question. And when I'm talking about power play, diving into your primitive self, it's not about power playing. It's about human senses. It's about building from a place that feels alive and that feels real. And it's a place where people can just hang out, cuss, have sex, be the worst possible version of themselves, and also be the best possible version of themselves. You want to tap into the dark and lighter sides of people. You want to bring in that unholy feeling, because honestly, people in general are unholy. They're not perfect. They're gray characters. And I think any brand should be a character. They shouldn't be one-dimensional. They should be like an entity of sorts that can kind of mold with their experiences and their time, and can almost connect with people as a entity. So think of a brand as John. John is the brand, right? So how does John communicate with people? How does it connect with people? How does John converse with people and feel that bond? Does he do it through eating lunch together? Does he do that nerding over movies? Or does he do that through sex? Because he's an absolute sex addict. You need to think about, who is John? What is his character? What is his primitive lifestyle? What are his tics? What are his downfalls? What are his positive aspects of his personality? That is your brand. Really, really tapping into the primitive human self. So you ever wonder why a jingle, a color scheme, or even a smell can sort of spark instant trust? Well, that's a neurological response, the mere exposure effect, which was studied by Robert Zahn, shows that people develop preferences for things that simply because they're familiar. It's not rational, it's just primal. Brands learn how to tap into this instinct. Steve Jobs famously rejected focus groups, saying people don't know what they want until you show it to them. That was not arrogance, and it was the whole ability to read the room on a cultural level. Now, Apple understood that people didn't just want faster computers, they wanted simplicity, elegance, and a sense of belonging. But did everybody naturally know that? No, they didn't. It was something that was within their subconscious. So now they're bringing up neuromarketing as a form of understanding what people think on a subconscious level. That gut level understanding of human aspiration is what allowed Apple to consistently position itself as a lifestyle and not a product. Now, Apple's design language taps into primal cues. Minimalism. What does minimalism represent? Safety and order, rounded corners, friendliness, softness, a sense of comfort, clean white spaces, so purity. Neurologically, this works because of the mere exposure effect. The brain feels safer with what it recognizes and trusts. Apple doubles down on familiarity. Once you're in the ecosystem, everything looks and feels the same, which triggers a unconscious comfort and loyalty. Apple's psychic edge isn't mystical. The iPod wasn't the first MP3 player, but Apple intuited that people didn't even want in the tech space. They wanted 1,000 songs in your pocket. The iPhone wasn't the first smartphone, but Apple felt like a cultural fatigue of clunky buttons. And it delivered the touch interface. People didn't know that they craved the touch interface, but when they had it, they couldn't do without it. This is what psychics do in business terms. Sense the undercurrents before the data catches up. So, before you dive into data, before you dive into statistics and research, try and just test this out. Try closing your eyes, meditating, and sensing your breath, sensing what your body feels like, sensing your thoughts, and just being comfortable with it. Being comfortable in your own skin means regularly talking to your body, being happy with the body and being grateful with the body that you're living in, acknowledging it, saying that, yeah, my back really hurts today, but, it's gonna get better. My back just needs a little support. Maybe I should go for a run. Maybe I should, tap my back and say it's okay, because it really is. Because your body is your vessel and you need to really tune into that. Most of us today are living a outer body experience where we're not really closely tied with our vessel. Oftentimes when we're scrolling through our devices, we don't even know what we're thinking. We don't know what we're feeling. We don't know what it feels like to be in our vessel. So really acknowledging your body, really acknowledging the pains and the discomforts and the weird noises and everything that your vessel comes with means you are in tune with your senses. Once you are in tune with your senses, you have heightened sense of observation, smell, psychic abilities, how to think 10 steps ahead of the person next to you. So when you do that, that's your primal animalistic instinct. You apply that in the workplace, you become a wolf. Do you want to be a wolf or a sheep? That's my question to you today. And I think most of us want to be wolves. Unfortunately, not all of us know how to get there. And I'm telling you today, focus on your senses, on your thoughts, your beliefs, and stop body shaming yourself. Start telling your body that I am grateful to be in this body. Whatever pains I have, it will go away. I will relieve it. I will talk to it every day. I will tell it, hey, you know what? You are beautiful. You are heard. And I'm happy to be inside you as a soul entity. The more you acknowledge it, the more you feel the feelings that you sense in your body on a day-to-day basis, the pains, the aches, instead of just numbing it down with medication or, diverting attention to doing other things, you acknowledge it. You acknowledge your senses, your own beliefs, your own thoughts. That's when you can actually tap into other people's thoughts and psychology. And it's an exercise that I want people to try for at least 3 weeks. Just really tap into everything that you feel. And it will be overwhelming. It will be difficult for our brains to kind of digest all of that information, but it will go a really long way. So that's all for today. I'm really grateful for you guys listening to this podcast. It really helps me to sort of put my thoughts out there about psychology, neuroscience, creativity, and I would love to hear from you if you have any questions or thoughts or suggestions for this podcast. If you want to come on board, I'd be happy to have you. So until next time, thanks for watching again.